When you're young and in love, you think you know everything. That's how I felt about Liam and me. We were in our mid-20s, married for just over a year, and still riding the high of being newlyweds. We laughed about how perfect we were together, how we understood each other like no one else could. But as I've learned, sometimes what you think you know can shift in a single moment. It started with a suggestion. Liam had always been adventurous, always looking for ways to keep our relationship exciting. One evening, over a bottle of wine, he brought it up. What if we tried something different? Something out of the ordinary? I laughed, thinking he was joking. But the look in his eyes told me he wasn't. My stomach twisted in both excitement and nerves. What do you mean? I asked cautiously. He hesitated, then said, I've been reading about couples who explore together. Who step out of their comfort zones. I felt my face flush. I wasn't naive, I knew what he was hinting at. Part of me was intrigued by the idea, the way he spoke about it with such curiosity and openness. Another part of me was terrified. But Liam was persuasive, and he promised we'd talk it through carefully, without pressure. A few weeks later, we met another couple, Sarah and Caleb. They were a bit older than us, maybe in their early 30s, and had this magnetic energy about them. Sarah was confident and vivacious, while Caleb had a calm, steady presence. They seemed so in sync, so comfortable with each other. It was hard not to admire them. We started spending time together, first as friends. Dinners, casual drinks, even a hiking trip. It felt natural, easy. But underlying it all was the unspoken understanding of why we were really connecting. One evening, we found ourselves at their house after dinner. The atmosphere was warm, intimate. Candles flickered on the table, and a soft playlist hummed in the background. Liam and Caleb were deep in conversation about some mutual hobby, while Sarah leaned closer to me. You're nervous, aren't you? She asked gently. I nodded, feeling the heat rise to my cheeks. A little. This is all new. She smiled warmly. It was for us too. But we learned that the key is trust. If you're not comfortable, you say so. No judgment. Her words eased some of the tension in my chest. I glanced at Liam, who caught my eye and gave me a reassuring smile. He seemed so confident, so at ease. It was contagious. That night was a whirlwind. Sarah's touch was light yet deliberate as she guided me into unfamiliar territory. Liam's gaze was steady, filled with a mix of excitement and reassurance. Every moment felt electrified, an intoxicating blend of passion and vulnerability. And yet, amid the heat of the moment, I couldn't ignore the creeping thought, how would this change us? As the night unfolded, the boundaries between us blurred. Caleb's presence was calm but commanding, and Sarah had a way of making me feel both seen and daring. There were moments of connection so intense they felt like they might burn, and others that left me questioning if we were chasing something we didn't fully understand. When we left their house in the early hours of the morning, Liam held my hand tightly. Are you okay? He asked as we walked to the car. I nodded. I think so. Just processing. Over the next few days, we talked endlessly. About what we liked, what felt strange, what it all meant for us. It brought us closer in some ways, but it also unearthed cracks we hadn't noticed before. One evening, I found myself sitting alone in our bedroom, replaying the night in my mind. The passion, the connection, the way Liam had looked at me, all of it was intoxicating. But there was an ache too, a hollow feeling I couldn't shake. Had we gone too far? A few weeks later, I ran into Sarah at a coffee shop. We chatted briefly, but there was a distance between us now, an unspoken understanding that we wouldn't be as close anymore. It felt bittersweet, like saying goodbye to a chapter of my life that I wasn't sure how to feel about. At home, Liam and I continued to work through it. Some days, we laughed and felt closer than ever. Other days, we argued, struggling to articulate the deeper insecurities that had surfaced. One night, after a particularly intense conversation, Liam said something that stuck with me. I never wanted to hurt us. I just thought it would make us stronger. I looked at him, my heart aching. I know. But some things can't be undone. In the months that followed, we found a new rhythm. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. We learned the importance of boundaries, of being honest about what we could and couldn't handle. And while we never revisited that experience, it became a turning point in our relationship, a reminder that love isn't just about passion and adventure. It's about knowing when to push limits and when to hold back. Looking back, I don't regret what happened. It taught me a lot about myself, about Liam, about us. But I also know it's not something I would choose again. Sometimes, the most valuable lessons come from the hardest experiences. As the years went by, Liam and I grew stronger in different ways. We found new ways to connect, traveling, trying new hobbies, and spending more time just talking. Our love matured, becoming less about the thrill and more about the steady, unwavering support we provided for each other. But the memory of that night remained, not as a regret, but as a marker of how far we had come. Sometimes, I wonder what might have happened if we hadn't taken that leap. Would we have stayed the same, or would we have drifted apart in different ways? There's no way to know. All I can say is that it changed us, for better and for worse, and we chose to grow from it. If I could give anyone advice from my story, it would be this: love is a constant negotiation. It's not about being perfect, it's about being willing to face challenges together and finding ways to rebuild when things feel broken. Trust yourself, trust your partner, and remember that every choice shapes the story you're building together. And sometimes, the hardest chapters are the ones that define who you become.